I'm Angela.
And I'm Paige.
Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. We'll explore the intricate details of the corrupt, the cruel, and the calculating.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast. Brenda Sue Schaefer disappeared in 1988 after planning to end her engagement to Mel Ignatow. She was never seen alive again, and Double Jeopardy, a law meant to protect Americans, ensured that justice would never be served.
You can support this podcast by joining our Patreon over at patreon.com/corruptpodcast or making a one-time contribution with PayPal. Both links are in the episode notes.
This story is about Brenda Sue Schaefer, who was gorgeous, by the way. If you look up her photos, she's just so pretty.
She was on the inside and the outside.
Yes, absolutely. She was born on April 25th, 1952, and she was the youngest of 6 children, born to parents John and Essie Schaefer. The Schaefers were devout Catholics, and Brenda was raised in a very strict home, but she was also the youngest, so she was babied.
Brenda spent her entire life in St. Matthews, Kentucky, which was a suburb of Louisville. In her sophomore year of high school, Brenda met and fell in love with Pete Van Pelt. Pete would become Brenda's only high school boyfriend, and not long after she graduated, they would be married. I feel like that's a solid last name, though. Van Pelt.
Absolutely. Let's go. Angela Van Pelt.
She's now Brenda Sue Van Pelt.
You went with Brenda. I went with my own name.
Okay. Angela Van Pelt.
Angela Van Pelt.
Sounds rich.
Has a nice ring to it.
Yeah, like you're bougie.
Yeah, I am bougie. So I deserve that last name.
Okay, there you go. Just change your last name. Unfortunately for Brenda and Pete, though, the marriage was rocky from the start. Like most young couples, they were struggling on limited income, and they made some poor financial decisions. They tried counseling, but without success. After 4 years, Brenda would move back home and divorce Pete. Now, as Catholics, Brenda's father, John, was completely against the divorce. He told her that she had made her bed and she had to lie in it. That's tough. Brenda's mother, Essie, disagreed, and she allowed Brenda to move back home.
Shortly after Pete and Brenda's divorce, Brenda would meet Jim Rush at TGI Fridays. They quickly fell in love. Jim seemed almost perfect. You know, he was a dentist, he enjoyed traveling, he was a looker. They would actually travel to Hawaii and Florida together. So cute. I want to go to Hawaii. They spent the next 8 years dating. That's a long time to date.
That's a long time, yeah.
I dated a year and got married. 1 year.
Oh no, we dated 5 years. Actually, I think it was 6 years. At 5 years, we got engaged.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem though, because my husband and I are still going strong.
Oh yeah, different strokes for different blokes. There are people that dated for a month and knew that that was the one.
Yeah, you just know. When you know, you know.
You know.
Well, Jim knew because he professed his love for Brenda on a billboard, and the message said,
"Brenda, there is not enough room here for me to express all my love for you, Jim." It's so romantic.
I want to watch a rom-com now.
Why aren't we doing this? I feel like we could confess our love on a billboard.
To our husbands?
To each other, clearly.
To each other.
No, I was thinking for my husband. It's maybe a little strange when wives do it to their husbands. Whereas when Jim did it, I feel like he just nailed it. Like, this is just so romantic.
I know this is going back to Pete, but I believe you should put, "Angela, you always be my Van Pelt" on a billboard for me. That would just be perfect. Perfecto.
Next Valentine's Day.
Unfortunately, Jim did like to drink, and Brenda did not. It became a major issue in their relationship, and they would split up and just remain friends. So they never got married.
They never got married, and this is the situation of like the one that got away.
Yeah.
After Brenda's death, Jim only ever had nice things to say about Brenda.
Yeah.
And it had the air of, I wish we could have made it work because she was the one. Like, it's really sad.
Yeah, he was the real MVP right there.
He was.
Brenda, now at 34 years old, she's living at home and working at a doctor's office as an assistant. And at this time, she was ready to write men off. But then Joyce, her best friend, asked her to go on a double date with her.
In September 1986, Joyce, her boyfriend Bob, and Brenda drove to Tartan's Landing Marina for that blind date on a boat. The boat owner and Brenda's date was 48-year-old Melvin Ignatow.
It's a pretty big age gap.
It is. It's a 14-year age gap.
Ooh, that's a lot.
It's not their biggest problem, though. Melvin, who went by Mel, was a longtime Louisville resident. He was a businessman, and he had expensive taste. He owned a large house, he had expensive watches, he drove a Corvette, owned a 32-foot boat, and he liked to brag about it. The boat he called Motion Lotion. That was the boat's name, Motion Lotion.
Immediately no.
I'm out. As soon as we get there and he's bragging about all of these fancy things that he owns, and then we're on the boat called Motion Lotion, I'm out. Done.
What was his thought process behind that? I mean, I guess where it would go, but
yeah,
it's disgusting. No go.
Mel had a bit of a reputation. People around him either thought he was an educated, influential man, or they saw right through it and thought he was a con man. Over that first date, he boasted to Brenda about how he earned all this money, had a large income, and he also told stories about working for the CIA while abroad, which was an obvious lie. Brenda's brother described Mel this way.
He was a work of art. This guy told such outlandish lies and stories to impress people, and no one believed him.
I wish that was true, that nobody believed him, but I think many people still did.
Yeah, it's like shit talkers. You know, they'll just shit talk until somebody does believe them, or they'll shit talk until nobody believes them and just still shit talk, and yeah.
You get tired and walk away?
Yep.
Either way, Brenda and Mel began dating, but almost immediately, she started to doubt the relationship.
As you can probably guess, Mel was domineering and possessive of Brenda to the point of obsession. Brenda tried to distance herself, but Mel would not let her go. Instead, it was the complete opposite. He would buy gifts for her. He would force all the attention to her, you know, kind of like sugarcoating their relationship. And within 2 months, Mel would propose to Brenda, but she declined. Then he proposed again on Valentine's Day in 1987, and this time Brenda accepted it.
Brenda was very modest. Both Pete and Jim later said that she wasn't interested in sex. She never gossiped to her friends about her sex life. It just wasn't something that she was comfortable discussing. But Mel, he wouldn't take no for an answer. He bullied Brenda into situations that she wasn't comfortable with, and when she spoke up about it, it escalated. So Mel started pushing what he called special sex tablets on Brenda, and this was even more terrifying because she would wake up without her clothes on and no memory of what had occurred after she took that pill. She would open up later to friends and family about this, and if she refused to take the pills, he would threaten her saying that he didn't need her consent because he would force the pills on her anyways. And that actually did happen where she had no memory of taking the pill and still woke up without her clothes on, knowing that he had done something to her.
Is this like a roofie? Like, do we know what the sex tablets were?
I would assume it was something like a roofie, yeah.
That's just terrible.
He was drugging her, we just don't know with what.
Brenda told her family about a time when she was asleep and woke to find Mel standing over her. He had a cloth that was soaked in chloroform, and he had plans to put it over her face. He had an explanation, though, that he was going to help her sleep, but she was already asleep. Seriously, like, WTF.
I would have freaked out. She was already asleep.
Yeah, she was like, dude, I was already asleep. I don't need help going to sleep. I would have been packing my bags.
It's just another situation of abuse that she did tell her friends and family about. I think there was a lot going on that she probably never voiced. Like at the beginning of their relationship, Mel used to call Brenda every single night at 10 p.m. That way, he knew that she was home. She had to take his calls, and she wasn't able to go out with friends. so he knew exactly where she was at 10 o'clock every night. It started with that, but then it just kept escalating. And before Brenda knew it, she wasn't talking to anybody but Mel, and he was calling her at work repeatedly during her days. So she's a doctor's assistant, and here's her boyfriend or fiance calling her multiple times a day, and she's trying to juggle that. He just kept pushing her farther and farther away from her friends and family, isolating her as best as he could. So obviously, Brenda's friends and family did not like Mel at all.
He was a psychopath.
Joyce, Brenda's friend who had helped set them up on that blind date 2 years earlier, told Brenda now that if she didn't get away from him, she would be reading about Brenda in the newspaper, which is just so eerily accurate to what happened.
It sounds like he's a narcissist.
Oh, absolutely.
It's that manipulation that he was putting on Brenda. I mean, she was telling her friends and her family, and they were all saying, like, run away, like, get away from this guy. And he is just, like, manipulating her to the T.
Oh, for sure. She tries to get away. Over a 2-year period between 1986 to 1988, she tries, but nobody leaves Mel Ignatow. He breaks up with you. You don't break up with him. So he was not letting her go.
I'd say the only way to get out then is murder. Don't take that advice.
Or witness protection.
That's a better idea.
There you go.
Less of a mess, I guess.
Yes. Witness protection. A restraining order definitely to start. So by 1988, Brenda had had enough, and she was starting to plan a breakup with Mel. She told coworkers, friends, and family about her intentions, even saying that she hated Mel and had to get away. Unfortunately, Mel became aware of Brenda's intentions, and he started making plans of his own.
On Saturday, September 24th, 1988, Brenda actually went on a date with Mel with the intention of returning some jewelry he had given to her. Brenda was still living with her parents at this time, so when she didn't return home to her parents that night, they knew something was wrong, and their first call was to Mel.
That phone call to Mel was made at 4 a.m., and within hours, Mel showed up at John and Essie's home, where the family had gathered, hoping for information about Brenda Sue's whereabouts. Mel put on quite the show. He cried and he prayed with the family, but they weren't buying it. It didn't escape notice that Mel had no tears when he cried. He claimed to have just seen Brenda at 11 p.m. when she dropped him off at his house. And according to Mel, Brenda was supposed to drive straight home. The family went straight to the police that same day to file a missing persons report. In an interview with Brenda's brother Tom, he told CBS News,
"I don't think our mother believed it, but we knew she was dead right away."
The very next day, on September 25th, 1988, Brenda's 1984 Buick Regal was found abandoned. It didn't look good because the car was found along the westbound lane of I-64, which was less than a mile from her home. The condition of the Buick was very concerning. It had a flat tire, cracked windshield, and it looked like someone had attempted to steal the stereo. Most importantly, though, Brenda was nowhere to be seen.
Starting with the last person to see Brenda, the police spoke with Mel. He had provided additional details about that day. He explained that him and Brenda had planned a date at a boating show, but it had rained out, so they bummed around in Brenda's car instead. They stopped at a chili restaurant and headed to the mall. After Brenda had dropped him off at home around 11 or 11:30, he went into his house, but decided he was still hungry, so he went to Skyline Chili at the Plainview Shopping Center. While at the Skyline Chili, Mel made a scene about his drink size, which a waitress would remember that day.
Like, how much chili does one person need in a day?
I know, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, he must be shitting a lot.
Like, they stopped for chili, supposedly together, and then he gets home and goes and gets more chili. And then that's like 11 or 11:30 at night.
If I was that police officer, I would know right away. I'm like, there's no freaking way you went out for chili and then you went out again for more chili. I'd have arrested him right there.
Just put that chili right on your spaghetti. Twice in one day. Because you couldn't just have it on the noodles once a day. You got to go for 2.
Why did you say spaghetti?
That's what Skyline Chili does. They put it on the noodles.
I have no idea. This is news to me.
That's the Skyline Chili way. They make pasta and they use the chili as sauce. Instead of like spaghetti sauce, it's chili.
Oh, I don't know how I feel about that.
It's like Mel Ignatow. You love it or you hate it. I personally think it's disgusting, but lots of people like it.
My mom used to put Wendy's chili on her salad. She'd get a cup of Wendy's chili and then a salad and then put her chili on the salad. It was that and made it like a taco salad type of thing. It's actually pretty good.
She might like Skyline chili. She's missing her calling.
I'll take her there someday.
I think you're supposed to put the chili on your potato, not your salad.
Or just have a bowl of chili.
And French fries. Just throw away the chili, actually. Just get rid of that from the equation and just eat the French fries and the Frosty.
French fry dipped in the Frosty?
Oh, yeah.
Are we doing it right? Okay. While speaking to the officer, Mel spun a story of a happy, loving relationship with a pending marriage. Brenda's friends and family had a very different story, sharing Mel's history of abuse and Brenda's intentions to break up with him.
So this led law enforcement to collaborate together to try and find Brenda and also try to track down this crazy path that Mel said they had taken back on September 24th. The Louisville Police, Kentucky State Police, and the FBI collaborated on that hunt. An FBI profiler would be brought in, and he determined that Mel would be a criminal sexual sadist. Think Ted Bundy. Mel was aroused by inflicting pain with sex and believed that Brenda was not a person, but a possession.
The Louisville and Kentucky investigation was split in multiple directions. With Brenda's car being found less than a mile from her home, they had to confirm that she hadn't been kidnapped while walking home. They also had to follow up on every single place Brenda and Mel might have been on September 24th, in an attempt to confirm Mel actually had an alibi or to try to catch him in a lie. Investigators followed up with psychics. One guess was that Brenda had two men in her back seat that had abducted her.
Mel's job had him leaving the United States for work, so the FBI took the lead there, following any international tips about his time abroad. There were rumors that Mel was a major drug dealer or could have been involved in a sex crime in Southeast Africa. None of the tips actually provided useful information that would solve this case, but the FBI did their due diligence and checked every single tip.
Mel's home was searched 2 different times. The police were not gentle, tearing apart even the little things, like removing the light switches and electrical panel covers, but unfortunately no evidence was turned up.
It's a bummer for him with that big schwanky house, and they're ripping up carpet, removing electric panel covers.
Such a bummer. Poor Mel. Melford.
Melford, very nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to call him from now. Melford the mutant mongrel.
I've got nothing here. Motion lotion just makes me think of the open ocean from Finding Dory. It's the soap and lotion.
That's what makes you think of it? Because my mind goes completely the opposite direction. Motion lotion?
Motion lotion. It's the open ocean.
You have such an innocent mind. I applaud you.
Yes. I don't think that's what he meant. This was years before Finding Dory came out.
Hop onto the Mel's motion lotion.
Ugh.
Revolting.
Gnarly. I guess at one point he had actually planned a date with like the 4 of them again. So like Bob, Joyce, Mel, and Brenda. And for this date, he delayed the date because him and Brenda were going to eat dinner off of the boat and then meet up later with them because he wouldn't let anybody eat on the motion lotion because they could make a mess.
He had some sort of disorder for sure.
Yeah.
A psychopath?
Definitely. Controlling for sure.
Yeah.
Like it was okay for them to eat on the boat one time just so he could impress her. But now that she's a possession, you're not eating on the boat. You could make a mess.
He also made her like tidy things up all the time. Everything had to be in order. Everything had to be like perfected. Manipulation at its finest.
It's all about the control. Yep. Brenda's brother Tom worked with the police and he chose to be wired up to have a dinner with Mel. Now at this dinner, Mel had the audacity to bring a full sheet of paper with a list of all of Brenda's valuable possessions, like her car, her jewelry, and stocks. Mel would tell Tom that if Brenda was dead, she would want him to have those possessions.
He's a sob.
Soap?
Son of a bitch.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if people actually call it. I call it soap.
I said RBF and you got on my case because you didn't think anybody called it RBF. We're going to go with RBF and soap.
Yeah, I don't know the ones that are used. I just create my own and I only know those.
He's definitely a soap. Tom, though, he's a hero. How he kept his cool when he knows that Mel did something to his sister. And now that man is sitting in front of him asking for her valuable belongings. Like, that's impressive.
To maintain his composure through all of what went on. I mean, if he would have pulled out that sheet of paper and I would have seen all those possessions of Brenda's, of my sister's, I would have gone apeshit. I would have been like, you mother beep. Popped him a good one.
Like fork in hand.
And the van out front would be like, gotta call it in. We gotta get in there.
They probably see that all the time. Because just at the base level, he had to stay calm while talking to his sister's murderer and being wired up.
Mm-hmm.
And then for Mel to bring out this list and be like, oh, well, she would want me to have this.
Yeah, I need your sister's car, her jewelry, the stocks. I need all of that.
Just sign it on over to me, Tom, can you?
Okay, were you married to her? No. So you can take this list, rip it up, shove it up your ass, and go back to your motion lotion.
Ugh, the motion lotion.
That's all he has.
True.
Okay, this is creepy. At a later time, Mel asked Brenda's parents if he could be alone in Brenda's bedroom to sense her vibrations, which could help locate Brenda. That so gives me the ick.
I wonder why he actually wanted to go in her bedroom.
Well, John and Essie actually contacted the police, and a surveillance camera was planted for Mel's visit, as they were hoping to catch him planting evidence, but no new evidence appeared in the taped dinner, and Mel didn't take or leave anything while in Brenda's room.
Always the narcissist, though, Mel enjoyed every single second in the spotlight. He played it up. In front of the news cameras, he cried, and he accepted every single interview that he could. At the same time, though, he was shamelessly dating multiple other women, all while complaining to the media that it had been more than 6 months without any new information about Brenda's whereabouts. Then on March 22nd, 1989, Mel received a death threat mailed to his home. The letter threatened Mel with a, quote, gang of Cubans that would kill him if he didn't lead police to Brenda's body.
Mel took that letter to his attorney, and he would be provided around-the-clock surveillance for a short time until it came to light that Brenda's boss, Dr. William Spaulding, my hero, had actually mailed the letter to Mel, hoping to scare him into confessing. The police had been aware that William was planning on sending the letter, but it still went to trial when Mel pressed charges for making terroristic threats. In 1989, William would be found guilty of a misdemeanor, but only had to pay a fine.
With the knowledge that William Spaulding had sent that letter and would be going to trial, Mel was feeling pretty full of himself when police reached out to his attorney and asked to make a bargain. Law enforcement offered Mel a press conference if he would agree to testify before a grand jury. Now, this is something that most attorneys would say absolutely not to, but Mel and his attorney, Charlie Ricketts, agreed to the bargain.
So on October 16th, 1989, Mel testified under oath for a grand jury. On the stand, he completely denied having killed Brenda or knowing her whereabouts. Mel did, however, slip up by mentioning a woman's name, Mary Ann Shore. Mary Ann had been an ex-girlfriend with Mel and still stayed in contact with him. Multiple times during the 2 years Mel had been with Brenda, he had also been having sex with Mary Ann.
So Mary Ann was brought in for an interview with police. When she was brought to the grand jury, she testified initially that she had seen Brenda just once, but then just minutes later, she responded with the statement, on the last time she had seen Brenda. This was a major slip-up because she had supposedly only seen Brenda one time, so there shouldn't have been a last time.
Gotcha.
Terrible witness.
Terrible person as well.
Amen to that. So Mary Ann panicked. She stood up at the grand jury and walked out of the courtroom. Like, you can't just do that. You can't just be like, nope, I'm done here, and walk out. They bring you back.
Apparently she did.
They bring her back.
The police were like, no, Mary Ann. Come on back.
Come on back or we're going to force you back. back.
Just picture like those guards like stopping her. Whoa there, Bessie.
Head right back to that seat.
When she got back after being interviewed again with the police, Marianne would eventually crack and accepted a plea deal. She told law enforcement exactly where to find Brenda's body. In exchange, she would receive lesser charges for evidence tampering and not accessory to murder.
It was now almost 16 months after her disappearance, and on January 10th, 1990, the body of Brenda Sue Schaefer was found. And she was found exactly where Mary Ann said she would be. A shallow grave in a vacant wooded area behind Mary Ann's home. The medical examiner report determined that Brenda died from asphyxiation.
Mary Ann confessed that the murder had occurred at her home following weeks of planning. Mel had created a disgusting list of things he wanted to do to Brenda. The list contained an exact timeline of events he wanted to do and wanted Mary Ann to take photos of. They even scream tested the house, confirming if Mary Ann screamed and Mel went outside, the neighbors wouldn't hear a sound. The final step in this preparation for the murder was to prepare the shallow grave, which they did weeks in advance.
So with the house scream tested and the shallow grave dug, on September 24th, Mel asked Brenda to meet an old friend of his. Once in Mary Ann's home, Mel changed the story. Suddenly, Mary Ann wasn't an old friend, but instead, Mel told Brenda that they were actually going to participate in sex therapy. Mary Ann would testify that Brenda was then forced to undress and pictures were taken of her. Mel tied Brenda to a glass coffee table where he raped her and tortured her for several hours.
Mary Ann stated that she was present for the torture, but left the room before Mel placed a chloroform-soaked rag over Brenda's mouth, suffocating her to death. Mary Ann and Mel then tied Brenda's body up and placed her in a bag. Her clothes and belongings were placed in another bag. Both the clothing and Brenda's body were buried in the pre-dug grave.
Mel was arrested on 6 charges: murder, kidnapping, sodomy, sexual abuse, robbery, and tampering with physical evidence. John and Essie wouldn't live to see the arrest. Little more than a year after Brenda's death, both of her parents had passed away as well.
Mel was back in the papers on January 18th, 1990, because he wanted to wear nicer clothing to court. Charlie Rickett, his attorney, had filed a motion to allow 51-year-old Mel to wear a suit and tie instead of his Jefferson County jail-provided jumpsuit. The motion would be granted because vain Mel could not be presented before the jurors in the jumpsuit he deserved. On one side, Mel was preparing to go on trial for Brenda's murder, while on the other side, investigators continued hunting for those photos Mary Ann said she had taken.
The case had received so much attention that the trial had to be moved to Kenton County, Kentucky, and it would begin in December 1991. The trial really hinged on Mary Ann's statements, and she would be treated as a key witness. But according to the prosecution, she was actually just a really terrible witness. On stand, Mary Ann would laugh inappropriately, and her descriptions of the events really confused the jury.
What was she laughing at? Like parts of the murder with Brenda? Because I'd be like chopping up the bit there. Get your act together, Mary Ann.
A lot of the heat that Mary Ann gets is because they feel like she was actually provocative on the stand. So she wears a short skirt and she sits there with her legs open. And she's just making people uncomfortable, probably because she was uncomfortable. So she's laughing at inopportune times. She's saying things kind of like in innuendos. She's making eyes at Mel like, hey, baby, on the stand where he murdered his fiance. Like, it just gave Mel's defense team the fuel they needed.
She did it on purpose so Mel wouldn't get jail time. 100%.
Maybe because she was the key witness there and she didn't want to be the key witness.
Yeah, sloppy. Mary Ann ended up delaying the trial because she had Bell's palsy, which is a partial facial paralysis. She had to be excused because she needed to be seen by a neurologist. Her time on the stand added confusion for the jurors, and the delay didn't help matters.
The defense team pointed out that there was no physical evidence linking Mel as Brenda's murderer. There was no hair, blood, or semen, They would try to prove that Mary Ann was more than an ex-girlfriend, but that she was the real murderer due to jealousy. So it was up to the jury to determine if the real murderer, without a doubt, was Mel or Mary Ann. In response, the prosecution team shared an incredible piece of evidence that they had kept back. In January 1990, after Mel's arrest and after Mary Ann's plea deal, Mary Ann had wired up and agreed to speak with Mel. The prosecution played the recording during the trial.
Mary Ann called up Mel and told him that the developers had just purchased the property behind her house, and she was worried that they could possibly dig up the property where Brenda's body was buried. Mel told Mary Ann to let him handle it, saying it was okay to let them threaten to dig 8 feet deep. He continued to tell Mary Ann not to get rattled. A single word would trip up the jurors. That word may have been safe or sight. Here is what Mel is saying in the recording.
That place we dug is not shallow. Beside that one area right by where that site or safe does not have any trees by it.
And we're going to share the recording for you guys.
That place we dug is not shallow. Beside that one area right by where that site does not have any trees by it.
So what did you hear? Was it safe or was it sight?
So the first time I listened to it, it was sight. And then now I can't hear anything but safe. It sucks because I hear both.
Yeah, it's tricky. They searched. No safe was ever found in those woods. I think what he's saying is that one area right by where that site does not have any trees.
I agree with that because he obviously did it. So safe makes no sense unless they created a safe word for the word site. But that's too many layers for his little brain to think of.
I think the more you listen to it, the more likely you are to hear the word safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, though. The first time I listened to it, I heard site, right by where that site is.
Yeah, but you can hear safe now, too.
Yeah, I can hear safe as well. So you can clearly see how it would give jurors reasonable doubt that he had not said site. Even right then when I listened to it, I heard site, though.
I heard safe.
The blue and black dress or the white and gold dress all over again.
I didn't want to go there, but, you know.
You know that the word is sight. Hear the word sight. On December 22nd, 1991, after just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Mel Ignatow was acquitted on all counts. He just walked out of court as a free man, laughing and telling news reporters that it was the best Christmas present he had ever had. It was a shocking turn of events, to say the least. The judge even wrote a letter to Brenda's family, apologizing for the outcome of the trial.
Mary Ann was still sentenced for her involvement. The plea deal gave her the lower charges of evidence tampering with a 5-year sentence. She would serve 3 years before her release.
So Mel walked free, and she got 3 years. Well, she technically got 5 years.
Yeah, I think she dug her own hole in that one. She just was not cooperative.
Yeah, she wasn't helping herself.
Yeah, but Mel should have gotten something.
Life in prison.
Death penalty. No.
Oh, dang.
Sorry.
It's no different than what he gave Brenda.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I think we should talk about the death penalty on this podcast.
I think that is actually on our corrupted clips list.
It's a toughie.
Indeed.
Mel was forced to sell his home, his car, and his motion lotion boat to pay for his legal defense. And the best part, he had to move in with his mother. He also lost his job, which was a minor punishment of the crime he had committed.
Then 6 months after Mel's acquittal, on October 1st, 1992, the new homeowners of Mel's home made a significant find during a remodel. One of the contractors had pulled up the carpet, and they found a hidden HVAC vent. Inside that vent was a plastic bag containing jewelry and 3 rolls of film. The bag was turned over to law enforcement, and the jewelry was confirmed to be Brenda's. It was the exact jewelry that she had planned to return to Mel back in September 1988. Once the film was developed, there were 105 photos of Brenda's last moments. Mel's face was not included in any of the pictures. However, there were other identifying features like moles that confirmed that it was Mel. The photos were exactly as Mary Ann had testified at the trial.
Moly Mel.
Ugh, you know the new owner of the boat? First thing they did, scrape motion lotion off the side.
Can you confirm that?
Like, oh, hell no. Sorry, I'm still stuck on the boat over here.
It's just a terrible name.
The motion lotion and Moly Mel.
Yeah. Law enforcement now had evidence proving that Mel had murdered Brenda, but with the acquittal, it was useless. There's this little thing called double jeopardy. The U.S. constitutional prohibition of double jeopardy meant Mel couldn't be charged with the same crime twice and would keep him from being charged with murder like he deserved. Law enforcement wasn't giving up, though. One day later, Mel would be charged with perjury for the grand jury trial. Knowing that he couldn't be charged with murder, Mel finally confessed to murdering Brenda. He admitted that Brenda's murder had been premeditated weeks in advance with Mary Ann. The media was on site as Mel was being escorted from the courtroom. He's smiling, he's strutting, he's looking happy as a clam because he knows that he got away with murder.
The perjury charges stemmed from that grand jury where Mel had testified that he was in no way involved in Brenda Sue's death. While awaiting trial for perjury, though, Mel would be released due to overcrowding of the jail. Overcrowding. This is the guy that they released?
Like, maybe give the guy that stole a Kit Kat at the gas station a break. Let him go.
I know, right? But maybe the guy who had been acquitted of murder and then smirked after he admitted to murdering her, maybe we keep that guy in jail.
Yeah, he's not going to do any harm.
So on February 25th, 1998, Mel would be out there walking free.
Mel was sentenced to only 8 years for the grand jury perjury, and he spent 5 years in federal Michigan prison. Authorities in Kentucky were not about to allow Mel to walk free again. So in 1997, when he was released from federal prison, he was held on a $40,000 bond and extradited back to Kentucky.
Once back in Kentucky, Mel was arrested on additional charges of perjury. This time, it was at that trial against William Spaulding, Brenda's boss. This had Mel back in jail for another 9-year sentence. Just 3 months into that sentence, though, he would request to be paroled, but it was denied. Probably joyfully by the judge.
Get that denied stamp.
Boom, denied. Mel would not serve either of the sentences in full, and he would be released officially in 2006.
Now 68 years old, Mel moved in with his son just blocks away from where he had murdered Brenda. He was unemployed and living on disability when 48 Hours caught up with him for an interview request, which he denied. With Mel's unfortunate release in 2006, in 2008, Mel died in a very karmic way by falling through a glass coffee table. He was 70 years old. He was home alone when he tripped, fell into the coffee table, and bled to death.
So this story had not just one death on a coffee table. Here is a second death on a glass coffee table.
A second death? I'm missing the first death.
That's how Brenda Sue died.
Oh, okay. I know that she was strapped to the glass coffee table, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together that she actually died on the table.
On the coffee table. And then what are the freaking chances that he's 70 years old, trips and falls on a glass coffee table? He could have hit anything.
Yeah, I was going to say something bad, but I refrained from that.
I know, I was waiting for karma's a bitch.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
After being released from prison, Mary Ann spent the rest of her life in the Louisville, Kentucky area. Mary Ann Shore Inlow died of heart failure in 2004 at just 54 years old. Brenda's story has been featured multiple times in the media. Double Jeopardy, a book by Bob Hill, was released in 1996. Shows like 48 Hours and Evil Lives Here also covered Brenda's story.
Brenda Sue Schaefer's name will always be linked to Mel Ignatow, but she was a 36-year-old woman with her entire life ahead of her. Justice wasn't served.
We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye!
Bye!